And since we're recording it, so I think, you know, when using this slide deck as an example, actually, hold on, let me go back here. So using this slide deck as an example of what we could talk about, right? So kind of, this obviously is way outdated. This isn't our template. So we need to go through our services, do a quick introduction of who Fruition Partners is. You know, I would talk about the fact that we're leading the Unified Service Delivery charge with CIOs to bring service management to organizations from a holistic perspective. We're an ITAM-focused company with a lot of experience there, and then obviously we do IT service management. So talk about that stuff, then kind of give like an agenda, which is all this slide was intended when I presented this back in the New York user group. And then before we get to the benefits, I think we should have a definition slide and define what ITAM is, what SACM is, what SAM is, and what CMDB is. So people can, you know, get acclimated with these terms and they understand when you're going to use them in the presentation what they mean. But also you take the opportunity to educate people, because every time I can, I try to explain that and what the difference is between these processes. It also shows just quickly how these processes are different and they cater to different areas of IT and they have different focuses. So a lot of times when people get into a room and they're talking about the CMDB, they think it's just this big database and you just flood it with a bunch of CIs and you relate changes, incidents, problems, and all of that to it. And that is such a very generic view of the CMDB. And someone will say, you know, well, I need to manage assets, and someone else is like, well, I need to, you know, the ITSM people are like, well, I just need to be able to see a business service and what the supporting architecture and infrastructure is that makes that service stand up. I need SLAs around that service. I need to know when a critical incident comes in, what service is being impacted. I need metrics on all of that. Sure, that's very ITSM focused, but the server team, where they do care about that blueprint, because when they do a change request, they want to know when they connect to a certain CI what the upstream and downstream impact is. But that server team is also very concerned about managing server assets and doing full lifecycle management around their server assets, just like the desktop support team is, just like the mobile team is, just like the networking team. They need their assets in ServiceNow to just manage them from a day-to-day perspective. And so I think that definition slide will help. Then I think you can talk about, you know, these benefits, or we can come up with some updated benefits about why would a company even want to spend the money. And we probably want to show that Fruition understands that these are big processes and they have sub-processes and components as part of it. And we can help navigate all of that for them, and we have a very practical approach to how we do this. That'll just kind of be a little stickler so they know, you know, when I start talking about assets, because this is pretty deep, when I talk about assets, I'm going to call Dennis or I'm going to call Fruition and get their thoughts. I talked about how, and this was even, what, 3 years ago, it's crazy, IT cost management was something that's becoming more important. So we've been trying for 10 years, and Mike knows this intimately, but we've been trying for 10 years to get people just to manage their assets properly, and not even getting into full TCO and overall cost of what the infrastructure is costing a company every year. And so I wanted to bring this slide up, and I'm not saying we use this one, but we could kind of give them a high level, you know, companies are not only trying to manage their assets, but they're really, and they're trying to answer the CIO's, one of the CIO's basic primary questions that he or she can never get an answer to. How many assets do I have? Which ones are life cycling this year? You know, how much am I spending with HP on these servers? You know, they still have a really hard time getting that basic information. And so this is just an extension of that conversation when it comes to cost. And then I put some challenges in here, which you guys can see and you can read, that you can highlight. And then this is one of my favorite slides. I still bring it up, even though Mike, we do need to update the copyright so it doesn't look like it's 3 years or 4 years old. I like to use this one as a visual because a lot of words, people are like, yeah, that's a whole bunch of text. This, you can start on this slide, and you can almost spend 25 minutes, quite frankly, on this slide alone, right? You can walk people through, the slides that we just talked about, but then just zero in on this and say, look, this is what we're dealing with here. The asset lifecycle process is how every single asset class should be managed within your environment, right? And you can say most organizations we consult with, they are still struggling with the very basics of purchasing hardware, purchasing software, having the order cut, the PO cut, having them shipped, having them received, and tracking all of that, having them hit the dock, scanned at the dock, put into inventory, knowing what their inventory is, having scanners or mobile devices in the field that you can scan the assets and manage the life cycle. So if a desktop comes in, it goes to inventory, it comes out of inventory, it gets imaged, Landesk, SECM, Altiris, name your product, picks it up, says it's on the wire, someone comes back in, scans it, says I'm taking it back for service, they scan it back out to the desk, they pull it back off the desk for destruction, it's put in destruction mode, it goes out the door, a destruction certificate is attached to the asset. A lot of companies, right, don't do that for most of their assets. They do a form of it. It's not holistic. They're not getting their bookends documented, and so you could just focus on that part alone. Say so for the network assets, for your server assets, for your hardware, for your software, and software is huge, right? There's typically companies do not have a software onboarding process, which is what software asset management starts with, right? So you can highlight that kind of just at the top. Like we're just talking about process. We're not talking about tool. We're not talking about ServiceNow or BDNA. We're just talking about organizations need help documenting, implementing, and governing the lifecycle process. Then the next part is what we do for a living, right, in terms of ITIL and service management. These are all the components of service management that we know and love, and it connects and helps manage and control and govern these assets. And so if you're the service management office, the director, a process owner, a process manager, you care about your processes and you care about linking to these assets, but you're very different from the guys and gals down here that are managing their assets on a day-to-day basis, right? They want to know all this stuff about their assets, whereas process owners, service management office directors, cabs, they care about the linking and the relationship and the management of the blueprints and the relationships between the assets. And then you can kind of talk about the data sources. So you'll say, we can bring in information into whatever tool you're using. If you're using ServiceNow, which we prefer and recommend, you can bring in data from all these great places to get you started from the book beginning to the book end, right? From order all the way through destruction, these data points help to drive and give you insight and metrics and variables to show all of this through its life cycle. Does that make sense?
Well, to me it does. Did this for 5 years, man.
Yep. So Dennis, is this clicking?
Yes.
Okay. So, we can put a kind of a talking points around this slide, but I think visually people will be like, oh, that's pretty cool, right? It's colorful. It's got a lot of stuff. But you can say this is the complexity of managing assets. And you can say a lot of our clients, they want to do one thing. They want to take their data sources down, and this is key. They want to take their data sources. They want to connect it to ServiceNow. And they want to create what we call configuration items in the CMDB. And you can say, that's great, but there's a fundamental problem with it. If these two top boxes are not in place, the data you're pumping into the CMDB is going to be very difficult to manage. It's not going to be accurate, and there's absolutely no governance around it. So if you flood 100,000 assets or configuration items into your CMDB and you have no lifecycle process managing it. You have no service management office. You're not doing your ITIL processes properly. This does not work. Right? It doesn't work. And so you can say, from Fruition's perspective, and from doing this for 10 years, we believe you have to look at the bigger picture, and we believe it takes a roadmap. And you can say, we do this for our customers. We can come in and help you make sense of your environment, the complexity of your environment, and the types of assets that you manage, and bring 10 years of experience to help make sense of this and to give you a plan. Or if you don't plan, you don't do a roadmap, you don't look at the strategy and the bigger picture of all of this, you will become very tactical and very technical about it, and you will end up deleting your CMDB 2-3 times. People won't trust the data. People won't know if it's accurate. It's not going to help the company long term. And the real key point here is you will spend the money 3 times over redoing this over and over again versus just putting a strategy in place from the very beginning. Now, for us, selfishly, without being too salesy about it, you're going to have people calling us, hopefully, about how we know how to do this. But what you also are kind of doing is you're setting BDNA to talk about how they can clean up data, right? Because that's what they do for a living. That's what their product's about.
Yep.
And you're kind of queuing that up. So that's this slide. I talked about where data comes from. I don't know if I want to cover any of these. I talked about what a typical SACM CMDB type project looks like. I don't know that we need to do that for this particular thing. I don't think we need to cover this slide. I don't think we need to cover this one. Discovery, I think you could almost talk about what discovery is on this slide. It's a data source. I wouldn't spend any special time on it. And I think we should jump right to this one and kind of let you wrap up with a up-to-date asset SACM, ITAM, SAM lessons learned, and kind of restate what you may have just talked about casually on that other slide. You can be very specific and let people go away with, yeah, I don't want to not follow these lessons learned and then spend way too much money and time and get in trouble because I've wasted the company's money. So that's just some thoughts. I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think we should just give
certainly a lot to cover in 25 minutes. You know, no doubt about it. I mean, the 25 minutes will go by very quick.
Right, and I'm not saying you do this all in the format. I'm just this is what I used. I think maybe 3 or 4 slides, maybe.
Yeah. No, you provided some great context to this. You know, so I mean, once we trim this down and get it into the format that we want to present, you know, I'd like to go through that and you know, kind of prepare myself based on whatever we decide to be the final slides. But you provided a lot of context to it today. You know, so I probably want to have one more call before we actually do the webinar.
Yeah, and that's fine. And I think, like, just to summarize it, right, I think, you know, I think we do, like I said, do an agenda slide, do a definition slide, which is what's missing here. And that's just 3 bold things. And if Mike, if you can get all graphical about it, because I really hate all these words. Like create the benefits or the definition slide, do like a nice graphical kind of summary benefit slide.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Maybe we talk about challenges that companies are faced with.
Absolutely.
Yep. CIOs don't have this, financial people don't have this, ITSM people don't know what services are hitting, what incidents are hitting which services. Asset management people can't go back to vendors to say which models are horrible. You know, we can kind of come up with some pretty great challenges. Then do this slide by itself and just wrap up with lessons learned.
Lessons learned. Yep.
Easy. I mean, that could probably take an hour, but we'll cram it into 25 minutes.
Yeah, I'm good with it. I wouldn't mind we should just give BDNA a tape of today's recording and just say, just click play on December 5th.
Yeah, click play and have my face there.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing this, Dennis, too. I really I'm a passionate person about ITAM, but I think it's good for you guys to start getting your face out there and for your clients to start seeing you guys as industry experts versus just the same old folks. So
no, I think it's good, and at the end of the day, that once adds a lot of value to fruition the brand.
Yep, and it helps you to learn more, so you can speak more to it. So
right.
Cool.
So thanks for doing that.
So here's what I'll do. I just got 4 or 5 bullets here. I'll just send those over to BDNA today, just to let them know this is the direction we're headed in. I'll give them some peace of mind too. Just tell them, we got a lot of slides already pre-built, so we're just going to polish those up. So, speaking of slides, yeah, Sean, send that deck over to Dennis and I when you have a chance.
Well, let me tell you guys where these are. I'm trying to socialize this a little bit.
Okay.
So if you go to Google Drive, there's a Fruition Sales folder. And what I've been doing is, for anything special, I've been throwing them in this presentation, which for some reason didn't sync. I need to go fix that, which I'll do right now. I'm putting everything in these presentations folder. So you guys, actually, give me 1 second. I'm going to do it right now before I forget. Google Drive. Did my computer freeze? What the hell? Google Drive, Fruition Sales, presentations. There.
Yeah, what's it called, Sean? What's it entitled, that deck?
It's SACM CMDB Discovery New York User Group. Oh, fine. I thought I had more presentations out here.
Okay, cool. All right. I don't think we need to. Do you need us to wait on the phone with you to confirm that it's over there, or it's
no
in Drive? Okay.
No.
All right. I think we're good.
You guys know what it is. I'm
right?
gonna put other ones out there too.
Okay. Dennis, you're good?
Yeah, I'm good. If you can just give me an expectation when I'll be able to take a look at the slide deck that we're planning on going with.
Yeah. Yep. Will do. Will do. Yeah.
So how do we want to do that? Mike, do you want to? You're going to try to start it, or do you want me, or should we get a call together and create it? What do you want to do?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, we're not done with you yet, Sean, man. I think we need your input on. I mean, again, I think we're really close, though. I mean, I don't know why you're knocking this deck so much. I mean, yeah, it's outdated a little bit. I'm sure we could update some terms, but I mean, I think it's a lot closer than you think. So, but yeah, I'll set up a working session for us. Trying to think. Are you taking off anytime next week for Thanksgiving? Besides Thursday and Friday?
Yeah, me Thursday and Friday, yeah. And the
That's
following week I'm actually going to be in San Jose.
Okay, so maybe actually early next week, maybe I'll find some time for us to connect.
Yeah.
Hey, Dennis, if you're free, join us. So
Okay.
I'll extend it to you, too. All right.
Great.
Cool. And then, yeah, I'll email you the recording to Dennis of the GoToMeeting today. All right. Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. All right, take it easy.
Later.
Bye.